Hey algebra students! So today we are going to do the check your learning and final product for Limitless. And yeah, this is module 3, check your learning and the final product, so I just put them together. There's just a few questions basically that you have to answer with all of the cell phone plans. So I went ahead and typed these out for you. So here's Verizon, and again it was $60 a month plus taxes, but again, it just depends on the area. It could be $10 taxes, it could be $20, it just depends. You've got Virgin Mobile, which is $55 a month plus $200 for the phone, plus taxes. And then you've got T-Mobile One, that was the one where it was $70 a month, all fees and taxes included. So that was kind of cool. I'd probably pick that one as long as the cell phone coverage was good. So it just depends on, again, kind of have to look back and see what the coverage was for these, and you kind of have to weigh all that out. See, like if you get 4G or not, do they have any limitations, that kind of stuff. But so then it asks for an appropriate domain and range for your functions. And so Verizon and T-Mobile are very similar because they don't have anything, as far as the function that I typed up here, they don't have anything added to it. I mean, this, you're going to have to add taxes, but that would technically be included in your monthly cost. So I just kind of wrote it as 60x. But it says what's an appropriate domain and range. So for Vx and M of x, so Vx and M of x, our domain, meaning the x values that would be appropriate for this would be, remember x represents the months, so it would have to be starting at 0. You wouldn't have negative months. So it would be x greater than or equal to 0. Okay? And remember, you'd say D and with the little colon, so the domain is x is greater than or equal to 0. And I think the fancy way, if you wanted to, say it in a slightly different way, they do like x such that, that's what that means, a little slash here, x such that x is greater than or equal to 0. Like, I think that's the fancy way of doing it. But we could just say domain is x is greater than or equal to 0. And then the range, okay, the range for this, again, it starts, when you graph this, you're going to see it starts at 0, 0, 0. So the lowest, like if I plug in a 0, let's say into both of these, 60 times 0 is 0, 75 times 0 is 0. So it starts at 0, so again, y is also greater than or equal to 0. All your payments are going to be 0 and above. So that's the domain and range for both of those. The domain and range for Virgin Mobile is slightly different, not too much different. So for Virgin Mobile, which is W of x, then we have the domain being the same, because again, you start off as x greater than or equal to 0. Remember, that represents your months. So that makes sense. And then for your range, it's a little bit different because you technically don't start at 0. If I plug in a 0 into the Virgin Mobile equation, 55 times 0 is 0, but I still have to pay for that phone up front, which is $200. So really, I start at $200. So my range is y greater than or equal to 200 because I'm starting at $200 and I'm going up after that. Okay? So that's the domain and range. You're going to graph these in Desmos. Okay, so remember, go to Desmos. That's how you spell it. And you're going to put in all of those functions up there. You're going to say, for the first block, say y equals 60x. And then you'll type another one. Y equals 55x plus 200. And then for the third one, you're still going to have to say y equals 70x. And you're going to see them all on the same graph together. So make sure you take a screenshot of your graph once you've put all of those in. And you'd probably want to put for your domain, if you go to the settings, that's that little tool that's in Desmos. If you go there, make sure if you look at the X and Y values of your graph, you'll want to, have appropriate X and Y values there so you can see all three graphs. So just make sure you're setting your window to where you can see all of them, because at first I think this one here is not going to show up. So you're going to need your graph to be kind of zoomed out and maybe go, I'm not sure how far out it's going to go, but this one's going to start like this Virgin Mobile one's going to start up here and then it's going to kind of go out. Whereas these other ones are going to start down here and go up like this. So you should have something that looks a little bit kind of sort of similar to that, but you need to be able to see where they intersect, all three of those graphs. Alright, so then after that, you can answer this question. What is the slope of each function? Remember that slope is the value that's out in front of X. That's the monthly payment, basically. In terms of this, I guess, what does the slope of each function represent? In terms of the cell phone plans, it's the monthly payment. Okay, it's your standard monthly payment that you have. Okay, so again so that's 3B. But for 3A, what's the slope of each one? So you'll just say, for V of X, M equals, and remember that was $60 a month. So that means M equals 60. For the W of X, which was the Virgin Mobile, it was $55 a month. And then for the T-Mobile one, which is M of X, it was $70 a month. So those are your three slopes. And again, they represent the monthly amount. What's the Y-intercept of each function? And how do you know? Remember the Y-intercept part, that's, if you look at this equation, y equals mx plus b, that's the part that's added or subtracted. So for each of those functions, remember Verizon and T-Mobile 1, if you look back up, go back up to the top and look at what's printed on your paper. So if you look back up here, then you'll see that Verizon and T-Mobile 1, they don't have anything added or subtracted. So their Y-intercept is 0 because it just has the slope. Nothing added or subtracted out here. But this one has a plus 200. So that's the Y-intercept for that one. So for, again, for, I think it's V of X and M of X, the Y-intercept B is equal to 0. And then for W of X, B is equal to 200. What does that represent? It represents the initial cost that you'd have to pay, maybe for the phone or something like that. So it's like an initial cost. It's a one-time initial cost. All right, explain which phone plan has the largest starting cost. So if you plugged in a 0, which one would you have to pay the most for? Well, the one with the one where you have to pay for the phone. So that's Virgin Mobile. So that's W of X, and I could say or Virgin Mobile, because you have to start off by paying $200. Explain which phone has the largest monthly cost. So which one has the biggest slope? Let's look back up here and look at, of these functions, which one's the biggest value in front of X? Well, it's T-Mobile 1. So T-Mobile 1 really has the biggest slope. So again, we'll say that's M of X, or again, it's T-Mobile 1. Alright. And then this is your own personal question here. So, oops, So for your own personal one, which phone would you choose? And again, just kind of look at the graphs and just kind of explain with your reasoning, what do you think you would choose? Once you're done with that, we can go to the back here. You're not going to have a back. Yours is going to be a separate worksheet. But I wanted you to get more practice with identifying slope and y-intercept. So again, remember, y equals mx plus b. M is your slope, right? And b is your y-intercept. So, when you are doing these are nice and easy. I think the first few are just really easy. All you have to do is look at the equation and identify the slope and the y-intercept. Very nice. So look at what's in front of x. Now, they're a little tricky. Sometimes they'll maybe move them around a little bit. So make sure you're looking at the number in front of x. That's your slope. So in this case, the number out in front of x is 2. So m equals 2. Okay? And the number that's being added is the y-intercept. So for that one, the y-intercept is 1. How do you write the y-intercept as an ordered pair? Well, if you look at the graph of this type of function, it would start up at positive 1. That represents 0, 1 on the graph. Okay, because you're not going over left or right, you're just going up 1. If you had to graph the rest of this function, then what you would do is from that point, start at your y-intercept. And then use your slope, write it as a fraction, if it's not already a fraction, and use your slope to tell you where to go from there. So go up, remember slope is rise over run, so you'd go up 2, right 1. So up 2, right 1. So it would actually, the next point would go here. And then you could draw your line. Usually you like to have more than just 2 points, but 2 points are good enough to make a line. So that's how you would graph that. Now, if, the only other situation, if y is not solved, okay, then you need to solve it. You need to get it into slope-intercept form. Looking right here, I can just see, okay, well, it's almost by itself, but we've got this 4x over here. I need to move that to the other side, so I'd have to subtract 4x from both sides. And if I did that, my slope-intercept form, these would cancel. I would have y equals, and then I'd have, I'm going to put the part with the x first. So negative 4x, and this is a positive 1 because there's no negative out in front of it, so I just say plus 1. So now I can see the slope-intercept form, and now I can identify the slope, which is out in front of the x. That's a negative 4. So that's the slope, right? And the number that's being added is your y-intercept. And again, this is really similar to the one before. As an ordered pair, it would be 0, 1. It's always 0. It's 0b, basically. And so 0, whatever b is. B is 1. So that's how you write the y-intercept. So I hope you find this helpful, and you'll be doing that worksheet. You'll be doing 1 through 11. And just remember, let's just look at number 10, or actually let's look at number 11. So if you're doing something like this, you have to, it says to identify M and B, and then write B as an ordered pair, as a point basically, and then graph. So I'll just show you how to do one of those, and then you can do the other one. So remember, the number out in front of the x is your slope, so that's 1/4. That tells you, it's already written as a fraction on this case, it's telling you to go up 1, right 4. Okay, and then b is actually this number right here, it's -5. And so b is a point, remember 0b, so 0, -5. So that tells me that when I graph this, I need to start down at -5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going down 5, and I'm going to put a point there. And then on your graph, you should already see all these lines and everything. But so now I have to use my slope. Using the slope to get to the next point. So I'm here, 0, -5, and I'm going to go up 1, right 4. So I go up 1, and then right. 1, 2, 3, 4, put a dot. And I could do it again, but you know, I can also just draw my line here, just roughly. Yours will be a lot more precise because you have the actual graph on yours, but that's how you do that.